Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the Sugarcube format for Twine. In this video, I would like to continue my series on adapting the fighting fantasy rules to a Twine game using the Sword and Planet subgenre of science fiction to inform the setting and plot. In my last video, I showed you how I set up a system for having the computer simulate a play of the game. So if we click this option here, it will randomly choose one of the four characters that are available. It will generate the attributes of that character, and then it will give us all the paragraphs. It will randomly choose when there are choices that the player should make, and it will make all the rolls, and we get the story that we would get given those choices, and it will keep going until either the character dies or we reach a section that has not yet been written. But that's not the real use of automated testing. What we really want to do is send the computer through sort of dozens or even hundreds of times and keep track of what results tend to happen. How often does the player die? Do particular characters die more often than others? Are there particular places that the character reaches more often than others, and so on. And in this video, I'm going to start to demonstrate how to do that. So, what do we need to do? Well, first of all, we need to have just the option to choose to have a multi-game test, and that's fairly straightforward. We just put in a link, and as you can see, when we click on that, we get something very similar to the one-off test. But if you look at the scroll bar, you can see that this the sort of darker bit is much smaller, indicating that the page that's generated is much longer. And if we scroll down, we will see that once we reach an unwritten section, it starts again. And in fact, it will go through each character at the moment 10 times. So we have character 1, skill 10, stamina 18, luck 6. And once that run through has reached its end, we have another character another character 1, skill 11, stamina 18, luck 6. The reason the luck is 6 is that character 1, it's a special rule for this story. It sort of breaks the normal rules of fighting fantasy. If you choose character 1, they have a starting luck of 6, and so on until we've had 10 runs of that. And then if we look at character 2, we can see that the same thing happens, and then of course it'll be character 3 and then character 4. We can also see that it's obeying the special rules. Character 1 should always have a luck of 6. Character 2 should have a higher stamina, and if we keep scrolling through, we'll see that on average that one's relatively low. But generally speaking, character 2's stamina is sort of higher than you'd expect in the core rules. And if we look at all the choices and stuff, we will see that the right paragraph is leading on to the right paragraph. So how do we do that? Well, as I say, the first thing we need to do is put in a link. That's pretty straightforward. So I've slightly rearranged the program from what it looked like last time. I've got the the version where we have a human player sort of down here. This is the starting square, and so to the right and below that starting square is the sort of the main program, I suppose, the one where the human player. To the left, we have what I showed you last video, which is a single simulated run through. And then we have this one called multi, which is the square that, or page, sorry. I mean, I sometimes call them squares, but the technical name is that they're pages. The program itself calls them pages. The multi-page loops through multiple computer simulations of playing the game. And it mostly uses the same pages as would be used for a single run through, but it encloses them within a series of for loops. So I'll show you how that works. So I'll just zoom in. So we have two for loops. For ty equals 1 up to 4, and for zm equals 1 up to 10. So ty we've already looked at. Ty is is which character of the 4 available characters is being simulated. So we want to go through character 1 10, well, in this case 10 times. We'll probably want to go through it more than 10 times, but for now I've set it to 10. And then character 2 10 times, then character 3 10 times, and so on. We've had to slightly move the code around. It used to be that in the one-off page, that would choose a random value for ty from 1 to 4. But if we choose the multi-run option, well, we want the character to be 1 for the first 10 and 2 for the second 10. And so having it be a random one would change that, of course. So, but if we choose this one off, well, we still want to make that a random value from 1 to 4. So how do we make both those things happen? Well, we remove the code from here that says set ty or set $ty equals random 1 to 4, and instead down the bottom of initialize, where we have these links, we set it up so that if the user clicks the one-off test option, that will set ty to a random value between 1 to 4 before it goes to the page. Because there's 3 links there, that's a bit hard to see, so I'll just retype what I've done on a single line. Okay, so this is the this is the relevant link that goes up to this one for a one-off run through. If you want to set up a link where clicking the link also makes changes to variables, the way you do it is you have a double bracket, you have the destination here, and you can have just a single destination like that, or you can have what I've chosen to do here, which is that the text is different to the name of the destination. So we have the text that will display first, then we have this bar here, then we have the destination, and then we have an end bracket. Excuse me, an end bracket. Then we have another set of square brackets, and in here we put whatever variables, whatever variable changes we want to make, separated if we have more than one. We only have one here. but separated by semicolons if necessary. So we could have Z to 10, Y to random 1 to 5, X to 2 times Y, something like, or maybe we put that in brackets, something like that. And then we have the 2 end square brackets. All right, so let's look a bit further at this multi. So we have for ty equals 1, ty is less than or equal to 4, ty plus plus. Then we have for zm equals 1, and that goes up to 10. Zm is a variable that we haven't seen before. Normally for variables that don't have any special significance and are just being used to count up from 1 to 10, I would use z, y, x, z2, y2, x2, etc. I didn't do that in this case because I wanted to make sure that I don't use a variable name here which is used anywhere in here. So I just said, all right, we'll call Zm a special variable that's only used on the multi-page, and then that will, and I'll note that in initialize, because I always write down the names of all the variables that I'm using. I can't remember where I've got it now. Now that I've said that, I'm gonna. Well, maybe I forgot. I hope I haven't forgotten to write it down. I should have done. Anyway, if I can't find it, I will write it down. Oh yeah, no, there we go. I put it in the, basically put it in the wrong place. Attribute used in multi for loop. I don't know if that's terribly clear, but I mean attribute used on the page multi, and it's just used for a loop. So that really should be down the bottom, because if you have a lot of variables, you probably want to list them in alphabetical order if you can. A, because it's easier to find stuff, and B, so that you don't accidentally use the same variable name for two different things. Sometimes I generally put things in alphabetical order, but then I group things if they're all to do with the one part of the program. So I have ES, you can see that's out of order. These are all together because they're to do, these ones are all together because they're all to do with combat. But anyway, so we have these two for loops, and then we do three things basically. We include the page generate character. So I've moved that to a separate page, and I've called it with an include, because it has to happen here. It has to happen if we're doing a one-off as well. It has to happen if we're playing the game normally. It just turned out to be easier to do it this way. So this is a code that, this is not new code. I've shown you this code before. It's just that it's newly put in a separate page, and this is just the one that generates the random values for skill, stamina, and luck, and makes sure that the current value and the initial or maximum value of a given attribute are the same at the beginning. So for each time we have to generate a character, we include one off, so we just do a one-off run, and then we have to do something we haven't done before, which is reset the variables, because you might get a keyword in one run through of the game, but you don't want to have that keyword when you next run through the game. It should be fresh. Similarly, your coins should be back to 0. So that's the keywords being reset to 0. That's the coins being set to 0. And this is the array that deals with what items you have. If you gain an item in one run through of the game, of course, the new character won't have that item in the next run through of the game. So we go to, in the case of $K, which is the keywords array, we go to k.length, and notice that normally in the middle of this for loop, normally it's Z is under or equal to some number. So when we're going from 1 to 10, we say Zm equals 1, and then Zm is less than or equal to 10. But this time we have less than, and the reason for that is because k.length will be one more than we need. It counts it counts from 0 to work out the length of an array. And because I generally only start from 1, I generally find it a bit confusing to use slot 0. We don't want to go up to k. I mean, we could. It would make very little difference, but just to be as efficient as possible, we don't want to bother going up to the length. We just want to be less than the length, so 1 less than the length. So that one's setting kz to 0, and this one is less than rather than less than or equal for the same reason, and it's setting it, the slots in the it array to 0. It being the array that keeps track of which items you have. It sets it to 1 if you have that particular item. Nothing else needs to be set to 0 because everything else is set up in initialize and then not changed. So the names of the items will be the same. So we don't need to reset the array that deals with the names of items. We just need to deal with the array that keeps track of which ones a given character has at any time, for example. And that's basically it. Once we do that, we can run through one off multiple times, doing it sort of character by character, which I think is probably most useful because we probably want to collect results by character, because one of the big things that we probably want to do is have character balance and make sure that there isn't one character that's way better or way worse than others. Although at this early stage of the game, that wouldn't be a huge problem because we could rebalance it quite easily by just keeping that in mind when we write in the future. If character 3 is really bad, well, we'll just make sure to put in some stuff that really helps character 3 or really penalizes the other characters. And that is how we do that. But the results that we got, they're not really the sort of results we want. We don't really want a sort of prose description of a run through. What we want is numbers. We want statistics. We want the game to collect things like how often did each character die, which unwritten paragraphs did they end up in, so we can see whether there's like particular places that are getting sort of too much traffic compared to what we thought, or too little. We want a sort of summary. We don't want a blow by blow description. The point of the blow by blow description is so that we can check that it's doing it properly. But now that we have created that description, and now that we are seeing that it is indeed doing it properly, well, that's great. We can now start getting numerical results. As part of that, we want to stop printing the stuff that we would get in a one-off run. So we're going to have to alter the page one-off so that where it prints text, we now want it to print text only if this is a one-off run, and if it's a multi-run, we don't want to do that. So we're going to have some variable that keeps track of that, and we're going to have to add code at quite a lot of points on this page. We're also going to need to start adding variables that are the results, like how many. We probably have an array that's how many deaths each character has suffered, and so on. But those are things we will be doing in the immediate future. For now, I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.